The night was supposed to be ordinary. A simple drive home after another exhausting day on set. The city lights shimmered on the wet asphalt, the world moving as usual, until it didn't. Everything changed in one brutal heartbeat, and when the news broke, it shattered every wall Shen Yue had built to protect her heart. Before we begin, if you're one of those who've been following Shen Yue and Miles Wei's emotional journey, make sure to subscribe right now, because what you're about to hear will shake you to the core. This isn't just another story. This is heartbreak, silence, and the kind of pain that changes people forever. Stay till the very end because what Shen Yue did next left everyone in complete disbelief. It started with a phone call. Shen Yue had just finished filming late that night, her makeup still faint on her cheeks, her mind too tired to think. Her phone buzzed once, twice, and then went silent. It was unusual for Miles not to answer her messages, especially after they had just spoken an hour ago. He'd promised to call her once he got home. But he never did. The next morning, the headlines exploded across every platform. Actor Miles Wei involved in a fatal crash. Those words felt unreal, distant, like they belonged to someone else's world. Shen Yue's phone slipped from her hand as her breath caught in her throat. Her manager tried to take the phone away, but Shen Yue's eyes were already filling with tears that refused to stop. She whispered his name again and again as if saying it could reverse time. By the time she reached the hospital, the corridors were filled with chaos. Fans, reporters, security, and flashing cameras surrounded the entrance, but Shen Yue barely noticed. Her legs moved on their own. Her heart pounded so hard it drowned out everything else. Inside the emergency wing, she saw the doctors' faces, their eyes heavy with exhaustion and pity. She already knew. She collapsed right there on the floor, her sobs echoing through the sterile hallways. The people around her froze, unsure what to do. She didn't care who saw her. For the first time, she wasn't an actress or a public figure. She was just a girl who had lost someone she couldn't replace. Every memory with him came rushing back at once. Their first meeting on set, the nervous laughter between takes, the inside jokes only they understood. She remembered how Miles would tease her about always forgetting her lines, and how he'd stay late just to help her rehearse. He'd once told her, even if the world forgets us, at least we'll have this moment. And now, those words were all she had left. Hours passed, but Shen Yue refused to leave. The hospital lights dimmed as the night returned, heavy and cold. She sat in the corner of the hallway, her eyes red, her voice gone. Her phone kept buzzing with messages from friends and fans, but she couldn't bring herself to read any of them. The world outside kept moving, but for her, time had stopped. Then something unexpected happened. A nurse approached her quietly, holding something in her hand. "He wanted this kept safe," the nurse said softly. It was a small black notebook, the one Miles always carried with him. Shen Yue took it, her hands trembling. When she opened it, she found the last thing he had written, her name. Just her name. That single word broke her all over again. She pressed the notebook to her chest, whispering between sobs, "You promised to come back." Her voice cracked, but the silence around her seemed to listen. The next morning, the world learned about her breakdown. Photos of Shen Yue sitting alone on the hospital floor spread online. Fans began writing messages, millions of them, sending love and prayers. Some said she looked lost, others said it was the first time they had ever seen her truly broken. But no one knew what was happening inside her heart. 3 days later, Shen Yue returned to the site of the crash. The road was quiet now, but the air still carried that eerie stillness that follows tragedy. She walked slowly, dressed in black, her hair tied loosely, her face pale from sleepless nights. She stood there for hours, staring at the faint marks on the pavement, the last place where Miles had been alive. She knelt down and placed the notebook on the ground. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "I know you're somewhere watching. I'm sorry for all the times I didn't say enough. I'm sorry for every fight, every word left unsaid. But if you can hear me, please, wake up. Even just once." The wind blew gently, almost like a response, brushing her hair across her face. She closed her eyes, holding on to that tiny moment of calm. Back at home, she couldn't bring herself to unpack the suitcase Miles had left at her place weeks ago. His jacket still hung on the chair by the window. His coffee cup was still on the table. Every little thing reminded her of him, the scent of his cologne, the songs he loved, the messages he'd sent late at night. One evening, while scrolling through her old texts, she noticed a message she had never opened. It was sent just before the accident. "Don't wait up. I have something to tell you tomorrow." Her heart broke all over again. She'd never know what he wanted to say. The next day, Shen Yue went live on social media for the first time since the tragedy. Her fans watched as she sat quietly before the camera, eyes heavy, voice trembling. "I don't know how to move on," she said softly. "But I want to say thank you for all the messages and love. Miles was more than just a co-star to me. He was someone who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I will honor him in every scene, in every project, for as long as I live." The live ended after a few minutes, but those words spread faster than anything else. Fans from around the world started a campaign called Wake Up for Miles, posting their favorite memories of him, their favorite lines, and moments from his dramas. Even celebrities joined in, sharing stories of how Miles had touched their lives with kindness and warmth. Months passed, but the wound in Shen Yue's heart remained. Every award she received, every script she read, felt incomplete without his voice in the background. But she kept going, because that's what he would have wanted. One night, during a late shoot, Shen Yue looked up at the sky and whispered softly, "You're still here, aren't you?" A quiet breeze brushed against her face, and she smiled for the first time in months. It wasn't closure. It was something gentler, acceptance, maybe. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it had changed shape. It had become a reminder of love, of loss, of how fragile everything truly is. And so, she continued, stronger but softer, carrying him with her in every line she spoke, every tear she shed, and every smile she managed to find again. Because some stories never end. They just live on, quietly, in the hearts that refuse to forget. The rain hadn't stopped for days. The sound of it against the window felt like an echo of everything Shen Yue couldn't say. Each drop carried a memory, each gust of wind carried his name. She hadn't been to the studio since that night. She couldn't. Every script, every camera, every light reminded her of him. But one evening, a quiet knock came at her door. It was Miles Wei's assistant, holding a small box wrapped carefully with black ribbon. "He left this," the man said softly. "He told me to give it to you if anything ever happened." Shen Yue stared at the box for a long time after the door closed. Her hands trembled as she untied the ribbon. Inside was a folded letter, a silver chain, and a small voice recorder. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. She sat on the floor, clutching the letter against her chest, afraid to open it, afraid of what she might hear. Finally, she pressed play on the recorder. The sound of his voice filled the room, soft, steady, unmistakably his. "Hey you," he said, his tone warm and gentle. "If you're hearing this, I guess life had other plans. I just wanted to say thank you. For everything. For believing in me when no one else did. For making me laugh even when I didn't want to smile. You always said I never knew how to slow down, but I hope you know that every minute I spent with you was my favorite kind of peace." Her tears fell silently as she listened. His pauses, his laughter, his final sigh, it was all there, frozen in time. "I don't know what tomorrow looks like," his voice continued, "but promise me something. Keep going. Do every scene like I'm watching. Smile like you always do. Don't let my silence stop your voice. You have no idea how much light you bring to people." The recording ended with a quiet click. Shen Yue sat in stillness for what felt like hours. The chain in her hand shimmered faintly in the dim light. She fastened it around her neck, whispering softly, "I'll keep going. I promise." Days turned into weeks, and the world kept spinning, but something had changed in her. She began to return to work, quietly, cautiously. People noticed she was different, calmer, more introspective. Every line she delivered carried weight. Every glance held emotion that cameras couldn't quite capture. One night, after filming, she found herself alone on the rooftop of the studio. The same stars he used to talk about stretched endlessly above her. She took a deep breath and said softly, "I know you're here somewhere." Then she smiled faintly, her eyes glistening. "You'd laugh if you saw me trying to be strong like this." The wind brushed through her hair as if answering. Later that week, during an interview, a reporter asked about Miles. The entire set fell silent, waiting for her response. Shen Yue took a long breath and looked directly into the camera. "Some people never really leave," she said quietly. "They stay with you, in your work, in your memories, in the quiet moments when no one's watching. Miles taught me that." Those words spread everywhere. Fans across the world began sharing clips of her interview, calling it the most heartfelt thing they'd ever heard. Hashtags filled every platform, photos of her wearing the silver chain became symbols of strength and remembrance. But behind the scenes, there was still a moment no one knew about. One night, after everyone had left the studio, Shen Yue walked to the old dressing room where they used to sit between shoots. The air was still heavy with memories. On the mirror, faintly written in dust, she traced the words "thank you." She stood there for a long while, smiling through her tears. The next day, she announced a new project, one based on the script Miles had written but never finished. She would complete it, not as a tribute, but as a continuation of what he started. "This is for him," she said during the press release, her voice steady but tender. Months later, the film premiered. The audience sat in complete silence as the credits rolled. At the very end, before the screen faded to black, appeared a single line, "For Miles, who taught me how to keep going." The theater erupted into quiet sobs and applause. People left the cinema with tears in their eyes, whispering how real it all felt. Backstage, Shen Yue stood alone, looking at the screen one last time. Her hands pressed together as she whispered, "I kept my promise." Then she walked out into the night air, her head lifted, her heart heavy but full. The story spread beyond entertainment headlines. It became a symbol of love that refused to vanish, a reminder that some connections transcend loss. And in her quiet moments, when the cameras were gone, Shen Yue would sometimes look at the sky and smile. "You're still watching, aren't you?" she'd whisper. The wind would stir gently, and somewhere deep inside, she felt that he was. Because love doesn't vanish. It simply changes its shape, living on in every breath, every memory, every promise kept. If this story touched your heart, if you believe love can live beyond goodbyes, then like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that hope still exists. Tell us in the comments what moment moved you most. Every word you write helps keep their story alive.